present to you all Cultural Awareness History Session. Tonight we'll talk about our history. Now I realize we have some folks here from Latino history, and their history is just as important as black history. But tonight is specifically tailored towards African American history. And we'll start by saying, pioneers of the past and present, know your history. They always say someone doesn't know their history, are far from their family, and are far from themselves. So we'll do about 45 minutes, then we have maybe 10 minutes of question and answer sessions. What I'll do first is this: to make sure that that what I'm doing is needed, we have each one of the boys and girls over here to stand and then tell us what you know about your history, just to make sure that my services is needed. If you know your history, there's no need for me to even go through this. If you don't know it, there's a need for me to go through history, because I believe this: the legacy of your people and my people should be remembered and passed down to those come behind us. And the legacy is important. You must have a sense of who you are and where you've been. And I believe the legacy for those come behind us is important. And therefore, we'll try to cover much as we can, so you can have, when you leave here, a better sense of who you are and your history.
Hi, hello everybody. I know about our history. I know about like how people were protesting to, like, for freedom and stuff, and how they would not like basically equality and stuff, and how everything wasn't as good for the blacks and other, races and stuff like that.
I know that Dr. Miles Luther came to Apple lives.
We had some black people come on ship in 1929, I believe. It was 15 males and 4 females that came on ship from slavery, like themselves. And that Madam C.J. Walker invented the first black, straightening gown. And that Martin Luther King died for our rights.
I know about slavery and how it was segregated when we came to America, when we had our rights.
About slavery and segregation, and how blacks and whites were treated differently, and how we were untreated equally. And that's all I know.
Okay, guys and parents, we'll start now with the pioneers of the past and the present. Study guide in a place, which means most likely life began on that continent. Now, what does it mean to us? I don't know. At least we have something to go by. Now, some may believe something different, and some may believe this. These are the facts: that life began in that continent 3.3 million years ago. And we'll assume they were African Americans. Now, you may have read other places that life began someplace else, but as far as what I've been able to discover, and I have found, that's where life possible began. We also have here, the first slave was sold in this country was in 1619. In 1619, there were 19 slaves. There were 4 females, and there were 15 males that began the journey in this country, in Jamestown, Virginia, in 1619. We also know, folks, that the slave trade began then. So a slave on that side of the continent sold for $25. Once the slave arrived in Jamestown, Virginia, the costs were $12.50. That's why they called black men and females black gold back in the day. They're worth so much, like the gold rush. Well, you could take a slave on the African continent for $25, then they arrived here, they were $12.50. Just imagine that. Now, imagine the first 19 slaves that aboarded that ship. Remember, when the ship came in, the slaves had to first sit in a dungeon. And they sit there in their own wastes, waited sometimes a month when the ship came in. When the ship came in, load the slaves up and slip turned away from the coast of the land and went out to the international water. As soon as the ship got international water, they were called Negroes. From that 4 or 5 miles out, they became Negroes. What Negroes? Well, you know, there's property. Remember back in those days, or the days today, everything is taxed. Which meant if you were property, they pay tax on that. In a capitalistic society, everything is taxed. It has a number. And if you had 10 slaves, you pay tax on 10 slaves. And they kept good records too. They kept great records about the slave trade. And go home and eat a sandwich. No remorse. Don't feel bad about it. A child, your complexion, your history, and 4 or 5 guys, and grab one of the boy, knock him down, beat him up, step on him, and then give a high five. With a lynch. Say, take a race of people. Teach them hate each other. Divide and conquer. He'll last you 400 years. I was over to school there to, I think it was Bowie. And I was walking around in Bowie and I was sitting out front watching the buses come in. And I watched all the kids come in on the buses. And I watched kids come in, no books. Down the hallway they were joining. Afternoon, the bus left, no books. What do you think, guys, that young guys and parents tell them education is important? And our kids and our young boys and girls still don't believe the books are important. Willie Lynch, he said, I took my slaves and I have brainwashed my slaves to believe that I am a great man. Even though I have 100 slaves and my counterpart has 50 slaves. My slaves believe I'm a great man because I have more slaves. You teach slaves to believe, more slaves you have, the more glorified you are, then you have conquered your slaves. My slaves love me, and they're obedient. We also have guys, it said the sale of Negroes. And they didn't say Africans, and they didn't say anything about females. They say we have a sale here of Negroes. Then they say we have a 17 yellow wench for sale. Now they didn't say African for sale. They could have said that. They could have said we have a female for sale. We have some males for sale. They said we have a wench for sale. And we have some ends for sale. And colored people for sale. They could say easily Africans. But guys, they didn't call you African because that means you get your credence. They called all these terms to make sure you became a 3rd and a 4th class citizen. They say here, okay, a yellow wench for $12.50. Now, why they use the word yellow? They could have said, yes, we got a wench for sale. But so we have a yellow wench for sale. That meant she was more valuable than a dark-skinned slave. To emphasize the color, what they're saying, she's worth more than a dark-skinned slave. The same thing the guy, I think, Senator Winterson said the other day. He said that black to white people, or Americans, or people in general, okay, believe that a light-skinned person is more valuable. And the same thing this guy said here in 1700s, we'll see the same thing today, same thing. Exactly the same thing today where people still put value in color. They did it then, they do it now. It's parallel, it has not changed. Imagine that, guys. The Washington Post used to write an article in the newspaper for ads for employees, say, looking for a light complexion clerk. That means Mr. Mustaf couldn't apply for that job. It's too dark. A light complexion clerk. We hire. They're saying if you're dark skinned, you can apply for the job. So folks, that's in the 1700s, 1900s, and you're still having those same things today in our society. And can we change that? No. Can we change ourselves? Yes. Underground Railroad. You gotta know about the Underground Railroad. About Harry Tubman. And once asked her, says, Honorable Harry Tubman, I understand that you freed about 300 slaves. And she said, yeah, you know, child, I sure did. But I freed more slaves. If slaves had known they were slaves. So I freed more slaves. But the slaves enjoyed being slaves.
Mr. Mustaf,
Yes, ma'am.
Can you repeat that last part? Because the ambulance.
Okay. There's a Honorable Harry Tubman. I understand you freed over 300 slaves in your lifetime. She said, yeah, child, you know, I would have freed more slaves if the slaves had known they were slaves. That slaves felt so comfortable being slaves, so they thought it wasn't slaves. That's amazing. She also carried a gun with her. You hear about the gun story. She put a gun on the thing here to make sure some slave got halfway and decided, I want to go, I changed my mind, I missed my massa. I missed my massa, and I missed my protection. I want to go back. She just said, pew. She blew him away. Because once he went back, she knew the secret was gone. He going to tell her massa the secret. And then on, there'll be the Underground Railroad. It'll be history. Then we have next, we have this life here, what I live this life myself. It says whites only, colors only, okay? White folks, black folks. Now guys, I live this life, you know. This was here probably the 60s, the 70s, even before that. I left home in 65, and in 65 I was still going in these back doors here. You go downtown sometime, you know, nice and hot outside, you'd be thirsty, go downtown and you're thirsty and you see the fountain. And one of the fountain had cold water, one had hot water. And one had cold water, say whites only. And then one had hot water, says color folks only. Now, you thirsty. You are thirsty, thirsty, thirsty. What do you think I did, guys? Did I drink from the cold fountain? I drank from the hot fountain. What do you think I did, brother?
Cold.
I didn't. I got from the hot water. Because I knew if I put my mouth on that water, on that fountain, and around that corner came some white guys, and they saw me, it was all over. They had the right to arrest me. Every white guy in the South or North had the rights to arrest any black man. They always say back in my hometown, they say the best black man could be arrested by the worst white man. Had the rights to do that. And once they arrest you, you was guilty. I told a story to my grandkids the other day. I said, you know, we would go downtown on Saturday. We put our hands in our pockets. Our grandparents said, boy, when you leave here, get downtown, you know, put your hands in your pocket. You're going to a store. Make sure they can't accuse you of taking anything. If your hands are out and they say, well, you took something, you took it. If you didn't take it, you took it. If the clerk accused you of taking something, you took it. So to make sure, couldn't be accused, my grandfather said, put your hands in your pocket, boy. You're going to a store. And imagine walking around town, hands in your pockets. Look kind of dumb, huh? Well, it's kind of smart. Because you knew if you were accused of something, you were jail bound. You had no rights. You had no court, you had no rights. You had no rights to say, I didn't do it. You had none.